Every single summer, American gardeners dump over 70 million pounds of pesticides on their lawns and gardens. 70 million pounds. The Amish have been growing some of the healthiest vegetable gardens in this country for over 300 years. How he keeps his garden so clean without chemicals. Today, I am sharing 12 Amish pest control tricks that actually work with zero chemicals. Stick around for number 10 because it is probably the most fun you will ever have solving a pest problem. Plus, I have a bonus tip at the end that protects your garden all winter long. Now, before we get into the list, you need to understand the Amish mindset around pest control. The goal is not to kill every insect in sight. Their goal is balance. If the system is in balance, the pests never get out of control in the first place. They call it working with what the Lord provides, and that simple idea is the foundation for every trick you are. Most backyard gardeners plant their tomatoes in the same spot year after year, their peppers in the same corner, their squash in the same bed, and then they wonder why the same pests keep coming back worse every season. That is because pests like tomato hornworms, squash vine borers, and Colorado potato beetles overwinter in the soil right where their favorite food grew last year. When spring arrives, they wake up to a buffet. The Amish break that cycle by never planting the same crop family in the same spot. 2 years in a row. They group plants into families. Nightshades like tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant go in one group. Squash, cucumbers, and melons in another. Brassicas like cabbage and broccoli in a third. Then they rotate those groups to a different bed every season. A simple 3 or 4 bed rotation is all you need. After just 2 seasons, you will notice a dramatic drop in pest pressure because the bugs wake up in spring and their dinner's gone. Trick number 2 is companion planting with marigolds and herbs. Walk through any Amish kitchen garden in Pennsylvania or Ohio, and you will see bright orange and yellow marigolds tucked between the tomato plants, bordering the cabbage rows and lining the edges of every bed. That is not decoration. French marigolds release a compound from their roots called alpha-terphenyl that is toxic to root knot nematodes, those tiny worms that attack plant roots below the soil line. Above the surface, their strong scent confuses and repels aphids, whiteflies, and some species of beetles. The Amish take this further by planting basil alongside tomatoes to repel hornworms, dill near cabbage to attract beneficial wasps, and chives around lettuce to keep aphids away. The key is planting these companions close, within 6 to 12 inches of the crop you are protecting. Think of it as giving your vegetables a bodyguard that works around the clock. Number 3 is something the Amish have understood for generations that most American gardeners are just now catching on to, deliberately attracting beneficial insects. Instead of trying to kill every bug, the Amish invite the good ones in and let them do the work. A single ladybug can eat up to 5,000 aphids in its lifetime. Lacewings devour mites, thrips, and small caterpillars. Parasitic wasps lay their eggs inside hornworms, eliminating them from the inside out. The Amish attract these allies by planting clusters of small flower plants like dill, fennel, yarrow, sweet, alyssum, and Queen Anne's lace throughout the garden. These flowers provide the nectar and pollen beneficial insects need to survive. The trick is to let some plants go to flower even when you are tempted to pull them. An Amish gardener I know leaves a few bolted dill plants standing all summer long. He calls them his bug hotels. If you build it, they will come and they will work harder than any chemical ever could. Now quick, if these tips are making you rethink your approach to pests, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I share new old school gardening wisdom every week, and I would love to have you growing along with me. Trick number 4 sounds almost too simple, but it is the one the Amish swear by more than any other. Every morning before the heat of the day, Amish gardeners walk their rows, they flip leaves, they check stems, and when they find a hornworm, a potato beetle, or a cluster of squash bug eggs, they pick them off by hand and drop them into a bucket of soapy water. No spray, no trap, no gadget, just their eyes and their fingers. The key is consistency. If you walk your garden for 10 minutes every single morning, you catch problems when there are 3 beetles instead of 300. The Amish teach their children to do this from the time they can walk, and by midsummer, those kids can spot a tomato hornworm from 5 feet away, which is saying something because those caterpillars are practically invisible against a green stem. If hand-picking sounds old-fashioned, that is because it is. But in terms of pest control that is targeted free and 100% effective, nothing beats it. Number 5 is the Amish version of a homemade pesticide, Eggshell, and it uses 2 things you probably already have in your kitchen: garlic and hot peppers. You take a full head of garlic and a handful of the hottest peppers you can find. Cayenne works great. Blend them with about a quart of water and let it sit overnight. Strain it through cheesecloth, add a few drops of plain liquid soap to help it stick to leaves, and pour it into a spray bottle. The garlic repels aphids, beetles, and even rabbits because the smell is so strong. The capsaicin from the peppers irritates soft-bodied insects on contact. Spray directly on leaves, top and bottom, every 5 to 7 days or after heavy rain. It will not harm your plants, it will not harm bees, and it costs almost nothing. Just wash your hands after handling the peppers. I learned that lesson the hard way about 20 years ago. Trick number 6 is one that looks like white powder but works like 1,000 tiny swords. Diatomaceous earth, or DE for short. This is a naturally occurring powder made from the fossilized remains of ancient aquatic organisms called diatoms. Under a microscope, each grain has razor-sharp edges. When soft-bodied insects like slugs, ants, beetles, or earwigs crawl through it, those edges slice through their waxy outer coating and cause them to dehydrate. It is completely mechanical, not chemical, so pests can never develop resistance to it. The Amish dust food grade diatomaceous earth around the base of their plants, along garden bed edges, and anywhere they see pest activity. The important thing is to use only food grade DE, never the pool grade kind, and to apply it when the soil is dry because moisture renders it useless. You will also want to wear a dust mask when applying it because the fine particles are not great for your lungs. Reapply after rain and you have got yourself a silent, invisible barrier that works around the clock. Number 7 is neem oil, something the Amish picked up on from old world herbal traditions. Neem oil comes from the seeds of the neem tree and has been used as a natural insecticide for centuries. What makes it special is that it does not just kill bugs on contact, it disrupts the feeding and reproductive cycles of over 200 species of leaf-eating pests, including aphids, caterpillars, whiteflies, mealybugs, and Japanese beetles. At the same time, it leaves beneficial insects largely unharmed because those insects are not eating the treated leaves. Mix about 2 tablespoons of pure cold-pressed neem oil with a gallon of water and a few drops of liquid soap to help it emulsify. Spray in the early evening, never in direct sunlight, or you risk burning the leaves. Apply every 7 to 10 days during peak pest season. It also works as a mild fungicide against powdery mildew and black spot. For the price of 1 small bottle, you get a pest solution that lasts the entire growing season. Trick number 8 is beautifully simple, and it is one the Amish use on their most vulnerable crops: physical barriers, specifically lightweight row covers made from cheesecloth, muslin, or fine insect mesh draped right over the plants. The idea is straightforward. If the pest cannot physically reach the plant, it cannot cause damage. The Amish use this especially for brassicas like cabbage, broccoli, and kale, which are magnets for cabbage moths and their caterpillars. They drape the lightweight fabric over hoops made from bent willow branches or wire and secure the edges with stones or soil. Light and water pass right through, but the moths cannot land on the leaves to lay eggs. It is that simple. Row covers also work beautifully for protecting young squash plants from squash vine borers in June and July. Just remember to remove the covers once the plants start flowering so pollinators can do their work. Number 9 is one of the oldest folk tricks in Amish gardening: beer traps for slugs. If you have ever found your lettuce full of ragged holes and slimy trails, you know the frustration. The Amish handle this by sinking shallow containers into the soil so the rim is level with the ground and filling them halfway with cheap beer. The yeast attracts slugs from several feet away. They crawl in, fall in, and that is the end of their lettuce eating career. Check traps every morning and refill every 2 to 3 days. If you do not want to waste beer, mix a tablespoon of yeast, a tablespoon of sugar, and a cup of warm water instead. It works just as well. Place the traps near your most slug-prone plants, and within a week, you will see a huge difference. Now, trick number 10 is the one I teased at the beginning, and honestly, it is my favorite on this entire list. The Amish use chickens and guinea fowl as living pest control. If you have ever watched a flock of chickens work through a garden bed, you know they are absolute machines when it comes to eating bugs, beetles, grubs, caterpillars, slugs, grasshoppers, ticks, you name it. A small flock of 4 to 6 hens given supervised access to the garden in early morning or late afternoon will vacuum up pests you did not even know you had. Guinea fowl are even better because they eat. Ticks and Japanese beetles like candy and are less likely to scratch up your plants than chickens. The Amish have been integrating poultry into their garden systems for as long as anyone can remember. The birds eat the pests. Their droppings fertilize the soil, and in return, you get fresh eggs. It is a closed loop system where everybody wins. Now, you do need to manage their access carefully. Chickens will eat your tomatoes and scratch up seedlings if left unsupervised, but timed, rotational access is the key, and the Amish have that down to an art. Trick number 11 is one that falls a little more into traditional folk knowledge, and I want to be upfront about that. It is planting strong scented borders around your garden using plants like catnip, horseradish, tansy, and rue. The idea is that the powerful aromas of these plants create a scent barrier that confuses and repels certain pests. Amish gardeners have planted horseradish at the ends of their potato rows for generations, claiming it keeps Colorado potato beetles away. Tansy is planted along fence lines to deter ants and some flying insects. Catnip, believe it or not, has been shown in at least one study to repel mosquitoes more effectively than some commercial repellents, and the Amish plant it near eggs. Some of these claims are better supported than others, and your results may vary depending on your zone, your soil, and which pests you're dealing with, but I have personally seen it work in Amish gardens, and the downside risk is zero. At worst, you end up with some beautiful, fragrant perennials around your beds. And finally, number 12. This is the one that sparks the most debate, and I'm going to give it to you straight. Crushed eggshell barriers. You've probably heard this one before. The idea is that you save your eggshells, crush them up, and sprinkle them in a ring around vulnerable plants like hostas, lettuce, and strawberries. The theory is that slugs and snails will not crawl over the sharp edges. Amish families have been doing this for generations, and many swear by it. I've used it in my own garden for years, and I've seen fewer slugs on plants where I put down eggshells. But here is the honest truth. University studies, including some out of the UK and Florida, have tested crushed eggshells as a slug barrier in controlled settings, and the results were not encouraging. Slugs crawled right over them without any trouble. So is this one folklore or fact? I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. The eggshells may not stop slugs on their own, but they do add calcium to your soil as they break down, which is genuinely beneficial, especially for tomatoes and peppers. So I still scatter them in my beds. But if slugs are a serious problem, I would combine this with the beer traps from trick number 9 for real results. Now here is that bonus tip I promised. The Amish practice what I call winter pest prevention. In late fall, after the final harvest, they do a thorough garden cleanup. They pull every spent plant, rake up fallen leaves and debris, and turn over the top few inches of soil. This is not just tidying up. By removing the dead material where pest eggs and larvae hide and exposing the top layer of soil to freezing temperatures, they wipe out next year's pest population before it ever gets started. Many also spread a thick layer of aged manure over the beds, which smothers any remaining eggs near the surface. It takes about an hour on a cool November afternoon and is one of the most effective things you can do for a cleaner garden next spring. Folks, those are 12 Amish pest control tricks that actually work, plus a bonus that sets you up for success before the season even starts. No chemicals, no expensive products, just simple wisdom that has been working for over 300 years. If this video changed how you think about pest control, hit that like button, drop a comment telling me which trick you are going to try first, and subscribe so you do not miss next week. Until then, happy growing.